All right. Let's take a deep dive into this stack of reports.
Yeah,
It seems like we're dealing with a lot of global security issues,
right.
especially, conflict hotspots and potential disruptions.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some really interesting analyses here.
Yes.
CTC Sentinel, the Watch List 2024 update,
Mm.
and some regional overviews from ACLE data.
Yep.
I think there's a lot to unpack.
Indeed. And what's really striking is just how interconnected these issues are.
Yeah.
We're seeing how political maneuvering can influence conflict dynamics.
Right.
And how regional tensions can spill over borders.
Mm.
And how events in one area can impact seemingly unrelated areas.
Yeah, like ripple effects.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's start with this crazy ATT 2024 report.
Here, right?
The one focusing on the UN Security Council.
Okay.
It seems like there's some growing concern about the Council's ability
Yeah.
to effectively address these mounting security threats.
Yes. The report highlights a few instances where the Council's response has been kind of hampered by political maneuvering and conflicting national interests, even when there's this general consensus that action is necessary.
They specifically mention the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah,
Right.
even though the Council agrees that a full-blown conflict needs to be avoided.
Yes.
It seems like their ability to take concrete steps
Mm-hmm.
is limited by these political complexities.
Exactly. The report really uses this conflict as a prime example of how the Council's effectiveness can be undermined.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an isolated case.
No.
We're seeing similar dynamics in Myanmar as well,
Yeah.
where the Council's efforts to address the crisis
Right.
have been met with resistance and a lack of unified action.
So it's almost like a stalemate
Yeah.
with global security hanging in the balance.
Mm-hmm.
The report also touches on the challenges of integrating the women, peace, and security agenda
Yes.
into the Council's work.
Right.
And it seems like there's a disconnect between recognizing the importance of women's participation
Mm-hmm.
and actually translating that into concrete action.
Yeah, there's this clear acknowledgement of the vital role that women play in peace building and conflict resolution.
Right.
But the report points to several instances where efforts to include strong language supporting women's participation in resolutions were met with pushback from certain member states.
So it highlights the need for a more comprehensive approach,
Absolutely.
moving beyond just acknowledging the importance of the WPS agenda
Yeah.
and actually implementing concrete measures
Mhm.
to ensure women's meaningful participation at all levels
Right.
of peace and security processes.
Okay, now shifting gears a little bit to the CTC Sentinel report.
Right.
This one delves into the Houthi threat
Okay.
and their ongoing attacks on shipping,
Right.
particularly those that occurred in June and July of this year.
This report really paints a concerning picture,
It does.
especially when they detail the increasing sophistication
Uh-huh.
of the Houthi tactics,
Yeah.
using flotillas of small boats and UAVs
Mm-hmm.
to provide real-time location data for their long-range strike systems.
Right.
I mean, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. It really challenges those traditional assumptions about maritime security
Right.
and forces us to rethink strategies for protecting shipping lanes.
Mhm.
The report also points to the Houthis' resilience
Oh.
and their continued access to resources,
Right.
likely with some external support.
Yeah.
And this really raises some serious questions about the long-term effectiveness of containment strategies.
It's a stark reminder that
Yeah.
these groups are constantly adapting and evolving,
Mm-hmm.
finding ways to circumvent
Right.
traditional security measures.
Okay, let's move on to the CTTA September 2024 report.
Okay.
This one focuses on the specific challenges
Right.
faced by the UN Security Council in addressing security threats in Haiti and Colombia.
Okay, it looks like Haiti is grappling with significant internal instability,
It is.
particularly due to gang violence.
Right.
The report mentions the UN's authorization of a multinational security support mission
Yes.
led by Kenya
Mhm.
to assist the Haitian National Police in tackling this issue.
However, the report also highlights
Okay.
that this mission is severely under-resourced,
Oh, really?
facing significant shortfalls in funding and equipment.
Wow.
This raises concerns about its ability to effectively carry out its mandate
Yeah.
and stabilize the situation in Haiti.
So while there's international recognition of the need to support Haiti,
Yeah,
the actual commitment of resources seems to be lagging behind.
it does seem that way.
Okay, now looking at Colombia,
Right.
the situation there is quite different.
Very different.
The report focuses on assessing and supporting the ongoing peace-building process.
Right.
It even includes a briefing from a former FARC-EP combatant who is now a signatory to the peace agreement, providing a first-hand perspective on the complexities
Yeah.
of transitioning from conflict to peace.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, to get that kind of direct insight into the challenges and opportunities
Right.
of such a delicate process.
Indeed, the report underscores the need for
Yeah.
continued dialogue and reconciliation efforts and the inclusion of diverse voices
Right.
in the peace-building process to ensure its long-term success.
It seems like each country presents a unique set of challenges, demanding tailored approaches
Absolutely.
and a deep understanding of the local context.
Okay.
Now, turning our attention to the Watchlist 2024 Autumn Update,
Right.
this report brings the upcoming U.S. presidential election into sharp focus.
Yes, and it specifically analyzes how the election outcome
Okay.
could significantly impact global dynamics,
Right.
particularly in the context of the ongoing war in Ukraine.
It suggests that a potential Harris administration would likely maintain support for Ukraine, but with a greater emphasis on burden sharing among allies.
Exactly.
So while the commitment to supporting Ukraine might remain consistent,
Right.
the approach and the expectations from allies could shift significantly,
They could.
depending on the election results.
The report highlights the potential implications of this shift in approach, suggesting it could create both opportunities and challenges.
Interesting.
Increased burden sharing could potentially lead to a more sustainable and collaborative response to the conflict, but it could also lead to friction among allies if not managed carefully.
It's a delicate balancing act.
Absolutely.
And the election outcome could be a pivotal factor in shaping the future direction of this conflict and its impact on the global stage.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to some regional overviews from ACLED data. Starting with the ACLEData.com-Asia Pacific Overview, September 2024.
Okay.
This report paints a rather concerning picture of escalating violence and political instability across several countries in the Asia-Pacific region.
It specifically points to incidents in Myanmar, the Philippines, and Afghanistan, where we see a complex interplay of factors driving conflict, including ethnic tensions, political rivalries, and the activities of armed groups.
The report emphasizes the interconnectedness of these issues, highlighting how events in one country can easily spill over borders and impact the stability of the entire region.
It's a reminder that security challenges in this part of the world are rarely isolated incidents. They're often part of a larger web of interconnected conflicts and tensions.
Now, shifting our focus to Africa with the ACLEData.com, the Raleigh Report, September 2024.
Okay.
This report reveals a concerning trend of violence targeting civilians, particularly in regions already grappling with conflict and instability.
The report identifies several hotspots,
Yes.
including the Sahel region, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Somalia.
Right.
It dives into the specific dynamics of violence in each of these areas, highlighting the role of armed groups, intercommunal conflicts, and the exploitation of resources as key drivers of instability.
The report emphasizes the devastating human cost of these conflicts, drawing attention to the plight of civilians caught in the crossfire. It also underscores the need for a comprehensive approach to address these challenges, going beyond just military interventions and encompassing efforts to address the root causes of conflict, promote dialogue and reconciliation, and protect vulnerable populations.
It seems like a multifaceted approach is crucial.
It is.
One that tackles both the immediate security threats and the underlying factors that contribute to instability.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's delve deeper
Okay.
into the specific dynamics and challenges outlined in these reports.
Starting with a closer look at the situation in the Central African Republic.
Okay.
Let's unpack that.
Sounds good. The Central African Republic is a really interesting case study.
Yeah.
It shows how external actors can make existing conflicts worse and, undermine stability.
Right.
The EU's recent decision to suspend budget aid and military training because of Russia's growing influence in the country really underscores this point.
It's a tough spot for the EU.
Absolutely.
Trying to provide support, but also navigating these complex geopolitical tensions.
Right. The report dives into the mechanisms of Russian influence.
Okay.
It highlights the role of private military companies, like the Wagner Group.
Okay.
They bolster the Central African Republic's military capabilities and provide security services.
So this growing Russian presence,
Yeah.
it's got Western powers worried
Definitely.
about the erosion of their influence in the region
Right.
and the potential for further instability. It's not just a simple case of one power replacing another.
Right.
There are wider implications here
Yeah.
for regional stability and the balance of power globally.
The report even suggests that the EU's decision to suspend aid could backfire.
Yeah, there could be unintended consequences.
Like what?
It could weaken the Central African Republic's government even more,
Okay.
making them even more reliant on Russian support.
Right.
And that could make the existing conflict even worse.
It's a delicate situation with no easy solutions.
Absolutely.
It seems like the situation in the Middle East is a similar dilemma.
Yeah.
The escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. It's drawn the attention of the UN Security Council.
It has.
But as we talked about earlier, their ability to respond effectively is limited by those political games.
The report highlights that complex web of alliances and rivalries that make this conflict so hard to address.
Okay.
You've got Hezbollah, backed by Iran, engaging in this conflict with Israel, who has strong ties to the United States.
Right.
It creates a very volatile environment where any misstep could have serious consequences.
And the fact that the conflict has spread beyond Gaza to include Lebanon now, that just adds another layer of complexity.
It does.
It's a powder keg.
The report really stresses the urgency of finding a peaceful solution,
Right.
but it also acknowledges the obstacles.
Like what?
The deep mistrust between the parties.
Okay.
The political deadlock in Lebanon.
Yeah.
And the broader regional tensions.
It's clear that this isn't a conflict that can be solved with just military force.
No.
It requires a real diplomatic effort.
Yes.
One that addresses the underlying political and security concerns of everyone involved.
Okay, let's shift back to the Houthi threat.
All right.
The CTC Sentinel report says they pose a big challenge to maritime security.
Right. The report provides a detailed analysis of the Houthis' tactics. It highlights their increasing use of asymmetric warfare to target commercial shipping and disrupt maritime trade.
They're using small boat swarms and unmanned aerial vehicles.
Yeah, with those advanced targeting systems.
Exactly. A level of sophistication that has surprised many security forces.
It's like they're constantly adapting.
They are.
And innovating.
Finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities and challenge traditional maritime security.
Right. It's like they're rewriting the rules of naval warfare.
In a sense, they are.
What are the implications of this?
Well, there are potential economic and geopolitical implications. Disruptions to shipping lanes can impact global trade, leading to higher prices and uncertainty in the markets.
And if the Houthis keep showing they can hit these targets, it could embolden other groups to use similar tactics.
Right, further destabilizing things.
Right, further destabilizing things.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
Okay, let's turn to the U.S. presidential election.
All right.
The Watchlist 2024 Autumn Update Report
discusses the potential impact of the election on U.S. foreign policy and global security.
The report suggests that a Harris administration would likely be more multilateral, emphasizing diplomacy, alliance building, and burden sharing.
So it's not just about who's president, but how the U.S. interacts with the world.
Exactly.
And its role in global events.
The report specifically looks at the potential impact on the war in Ukraine.
Okay, and what does it say?
It suggests that a Harris administration would probably maintain support for Ukraine, but encourage European allies to take on a larger share of the burden.
So this shift in emphasis, it could have big consequences.
It could.
For the transatlantic alliance and the direction of the conflict.
It could lead to a more sustainable and equitable response.
Okay.
But it could also strain relations with allies.
If it's not handled carefully?
Exactly. The report highlights the need for clear communication, strategic coordination, and a shared understanding of goals.
It's a balancing act.
It is.
Trying to balance the interests of multiple players in a complex and unpredictable geopolitical landscape.
And the election outcome will definitely have a big impact on this.
Okay, let's take a closer look at those security challenges in the ACLEData.com-Asia Pacific Overview, September 2024.
Sounds good.
Starting with Myanmar.
All right. Myanmar is still dealing with a lot of violence and instability.
Right. It all started with that military coup in 2021.
Exactly. The report highlights this surge in armed clashes between the military junta and various ethnic armed groups, as well as pro-democracy resistance forces.
This has led to a lot of displacement.
Yes.
Human rights abuses, and a deepening humanitarian crisis.
Absolutely. It's a terrible situation for the civilians caught in the middle.
Yeah, the report also mentions the military junta's crackdown on dissent.
Right. There are reports of arbitrary arrests, torture, and extrajudicial killings.
It's a stark reminder of what happens under authoritarian rule.
It is.
And how fragile democratic institutions can be.
It also highlights the challenges we face in addressing these kinds of political crises.
Right, with multiple armed actors, deep-seated ethnic tensions, and a lack of political will for dialogue. It's a tangled web.
It really is.
Okay, let's move on to the Philippines.
All right.
The report highlights the ongoing insurgencies there.
Yeah, especially in the southern region of Mindanao.
Despite the peace efforts, groups like Abu Sayyaf and the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters,
they continue to pose a threat.
They're engaging in attacks, kidnappings, and extortion.
The report also notes the emergence of pro-ISIS groups, adding yet another layer of complexity.
It seems like even in countries with stable governments, these pockets of instability can persist.
They can.
Fueled by extremism,
right,
socioeconomic grievances, and historical conflicts.
Absolutely.
Okay, now Afghanistan.
All right.
The report paints a pretty bleak picture.
It does.
Of the security situation after the Taliban takeover.
The country is facing a lot of problems.
Yeah, like the resurgence of the Islamic State Khorasan province. The humanitarian crisis. And widespread human rights abuses.
It's like all the progress they made just vanished.
It's a tough situation.
The report also mentions the Taliban's struggle to govern effectively.
Yeah, it raises concerns about the country's stability.
Right, and the possibility of it becoming a safe haven for terrorists.
That's a real concern.
Now let's turn back to Africa.
Okay.
The ACLEData.com, the Raleigh Report, September 2024, gives us an overview of the violence against civilians.
The Sahel region is particularly volatile right now.
Yeah, with all those attacks by jihadist groups.
Linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State?
Right, they've taken advantage of the weak state presence there.
And the intercommunal conflicts.
To spread their influence.
And carry out those attacks.
The report stresses the transnational nature of the threat.
These groups operate across borders.
Making it hard to contain them.
Exactly. It requires a coordinated regional approach.
Right, involving cooperation between governments and organizations.
It's a reminder that security challenges don't stop at borders.
No, they don't.
Addressing them requires a collective effort.
The report also highlights the impact of this violence on civilians.
Yeah, with mass killings,
displacement,
destruction of livelihoods.
The situation in the Sahel is a clear example.
It is.
Of the human cost of these conflicts.
And the urgent need for peace-building efforts.
Okay, what about the Democratic Republic of Congo?
The report highlights the ongoing armed conflict in the east.
Fueled by ethnic tensions?
Competition for resources.
And those armed groups.
Despite efforts to stabilize the region, violence continues.
Displacing millions.
And creating a humanitarian crisis.
The report mentions the brutal nature of this conflict.
With sexual violence.
Child soldiers.
And the targeting of civilians.
This situation needs more attention.
It does.
And action from the international community.
The conflict also has regional dimensions.
Right, with neighboring countries getting pulled in.
Addressing this conflict requires a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
It can't just be about military solutions.
It needs political dialogue. And effective governance.
To address those root causes.
It's a long process.
It is.
But it's crucial for lasting peace.
Absolutely.
Finally, Somalia.
All right.
The report identifies it as another hotspot.
Somalia has been dealing with conflict for decades.
Yeah, with al-Shabaab.
That jihadist group linked to Al-Qaeda.
They pose a constant threat.
They do.
The report highlights their resilience.
Despite the military operations against them.
And their ability to adapt.
They exploit local grievances.
To maintain their control.
It's a constant battle.
Trying to contain the threat.
And build up Somali institutions.
So they can govern effectively.
And provide security.
The report emphasizes the need for a comprehensive approach.
Combining security measures.
With efforts to address the underlying issues.
Like political and economic factors.
They contribute to the instability.
Promoting inclusive governance.
Addressing corruption.
Yeah, providing opportunities.
Right, because lasting peace requires more than just military solutions.
It needs a holistic approach.
To create a sense of belonging and opportunity for everyone.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
Oh, yeah.
These reports paint a complex and concerning picture
of the global security landscape.
We've seen how political maneuvering,
regional tensions,
and the actions of non-state actors
all combine to create a very volatile world.
The key takeaway for me is the interconnectedness of these challenges.
Yeah, what happens in one place can affect us all.
Exactly. And responding effectively requires a deep understanding
of the local context,
a commitment to cooperation,
and a willingness to address the root causes of these problems.
It's a difficult task,
but it's one we have to face head on.
With a shared commitment to building a more peaceful and secure world.
Well said. That's it for our deep dive today.
Thanks for having me.